Okay, so this is 5B. This is our worm castings production process. And we use what's called worm wedges. In a worm wedge, we start in the very corner of one of these wedges with a small amount of compost and about 10,000 worms. Every week we add an inch of food waste to the front of that wedge. The worms multiply to about 25 or 30,000 and they chase the food. So this is the back end of these wedges. And as you move across the front, we go to the front side of the wedges. And what you'll see here is I grabbed a handful of the front of the wedge, and you can see lots of worms. Now they're Arizona worms, so they're kind of skinny, but there's about somewhere between 15 and 30,000 worms in each of these wedges.
Can I touch one?
Absolutely, you can have that whole thing.
I can take the other one?
Absolutely. Okay, so right now we're moving across this, and so we're feeding on that side. In another about 2 or 3 weeks, we'll pull that board off. We'll move that board back to right here, and we'll start moving the worms back and forth. We've been going back and forth with these wedges for almost 3 years. We've never had to add worms. We just completely, they replenish themselves. The interesting part of that is red wigglers, they're like teenage boys with a Nintendo. If you just feed them and leave them alone, they'll stay there forever. And they might move a half an inch or an inch to get food, but they won't go much further than that. So you'll see this is just on dirt. They don't burrow, they don't try and walk away, they just follow the food. The back side of this wedge, when we pull material off of the back side of this wedge, and we're going to show you how we do that, you will not find worms. What you'll find is a really, really good combination of worm castings, or as close to pure worm poop as we can get, with the carbon that we add to this that adds the fungal material to our castings niche. And I'm going to show you how we screen that in a second, but I want to tell you, when you look at our wedges, we want you to see how much wood there is in those wedges, and we use ground landscape waste. And we do that to increase the amount of carbon in the mix, not because castings are an awesome fertilizer, because in and of themselves, you know, that NPK rating that you see on bags, worm castings don't provide a tremendous amount of nitrogen or phosphorus or calcium or any of those other components. What they do is they add the bacteria, which converts what's in your soil into things that the plants can utilize. So when you are feeding your plants and your trees, we want you to get a bag of good compost, preferably compost that you prepared yourself for free, using stuff that you threw away, and then add a small amount of worm castings. Somewhere between 8 and 10% is the right amount of worm castings to add. In Arizona, you want as much as possible to have a fungally dominant casting, which means you want more fungi than bacteria. And the carbon helps us produce a more fungally dominant casting. What that does is fungi in your soil retain water in a better, more efficient way. And they release that water over time. So it's particularly important in Arizona. If you get a good, strong, fungally dominant casting, which creates that fungally dominant soil, microbe base in your soil, you'll be able to water much less and much less often. Because in Arizona, typically what happens when you water is the water just moves its way on down. Whatever attaches to the roots as it goes down, they get, but the rest of it goes into the water table, which means that you're not using that water as efficiently as you can. If you have a fungally dominant castings, a fungally dominant soil, it will do that. So here's a commercial for the Arizona Worm Farm. When you buy our castings, you're buying live microbes. You're buying a living, breathing organism that will help convert the things that are in your soil into things that your plants can use. When you buy those plastic bags in the big box stores that are sealed, it looks darker, but the darker tells you it's gone anaerobic and the microbes are dead. So the really positive benefit that you get from castings, you'll have better results if you get live, active castings. Best way to do it is to have your own. Second best is to buy ours. Okay, question. Sir, you had a question?
I think this one's, it has a white belly.
It has a white belly, that means it's pregnant.
Oh my God.
So that,
right there, somewhere at the
yeah,
end.
I think you're right. I think you found a pregnant worm.
inside.
And if you held that for somewhere between 1 hour and 32 hours, it would have a baby in your hand.
Oh my god.
Although it probably wouldn't, because they don't like the oil on their hands. So if you held it in a pile of dirt, you got a shot at it. If you have that much patience, then you should come work for us, because I'm impressed.
I have lots of patience.